Hi, this is Kelsey. You may have noticed that I've relocated once again. Very exciting new trailer-esque decor because I do indeed live in a trailer for the time being. This is probably going to be the last of these LPL Immersion videos since I'm doing them bi-weekly. If there's not really going to be much space between week 11 and the playoffs, so I'm not going to be doing another one probably. I'll probably do one after playoffs before regionals though. So we'll leave it at that. But going in, there's sort of been a lot of changes once again. This is why I like doing them bi-weekly instead of just once a week because, well, first of all, there are a lot of games that happen every week, but so there is a lot of shifting per week, I think. But just a conglomerated over 2 weeks makes it very interesting. So number 12, we have King still, obviously that hasn't changed, and number 11 WE. I think the one thing about King is that they have shown more sophisticated macro play again, but then they just kind of goof off and they don't really care and they've given up and there's just I think they don't want to win anymore. It's almost like some of these players want to become an LSPL team so that their buyouts will lower. Almost, you kind of have to wonder about that sort of thing. Of course, there's also the thing that Royal Never Give Up is in 9, and because of some of the rumors and speculation that the Royal Club owns both of them, they'll be on the same side of the bracket in the promo. Whatever. This isn't about a conspiracy theory. This is just about Team King, and they suck, so they're number 12 overall. Despite having some really interesting individual performances from Insec and Zero and Nama and even Korn, they're just not a good team right now. WE very similarly great individual performances from Spirit. They at least play like they want to win every game, even if they don't go about it the most logical way, so that's why they're above King. Otherwise, not a good team either. Number 10, I'm going to have Unlimited Potential. The reason why I have Unlimited Potential is number 10 now. They were actually, if you remember, I had them at 8 2 weeks ago. I have Unlimited Potential at number 10 right now just because I think they still have all the great creative things about them. The very interesting ideas about counter strategy, the way they want to approach that. Heart's still very good commanding shot caller. The unfortunate thing is that no matter how much you like a team in concept or how good this team can be in concept, their execution is so off. And they're losing a lot of games, and the teams that I rated above them actually kind of had a bit of an upswing. Actually, there's kind of a debate between this and number 9, which one's worth. Unlimited Potential could actually be the 9th place team, really close for me. But I just think even though Master 3's concepts aren't as good as Unlimited Potential, they still have a little bit more success in terms of with how they work. So that's why I have Master 3 at number 9. Master 3 has kind of just become the Dade show. If Condi can get Dade, they do well. Looper has been performing really poorly. Their bottom lane hasn't been good. I actually think Ra is a mechanical upgrade to Love CD, but Love CD provided a lot of the shot calling, and I think their macro play has deteriorated, and it's just really like more the Dade Condi show than it's ever been, and Dade is so inconsistent. There was a soundbite from when they played Snake, and you kind of demolished the team with Yasuo, and he made kind of the jokes, who's the best Yasuo player in the world now? Just kind of indicative of how far Dade has fallen, I think. Even though I do rate him pretty good overall, still a very strong team fighting mid when he wants to be. Number 8, very shocking, Royal Never Give Up. I had them at 10, I think, a couple weeks ago. They, this week alone, had a very huge upswing in terms of being proactive. I think they're taking advantage of a lot of these teams like Invictus, like Chagu, and even Snake that are maybe not ready to proactively punish you early as much so as Royal are. And they actually look like kind of like the king of the off season a little bit, where they're just much more about these coordinated roams and their vision improved a lot. So it's nice to see that kind of diving, that kind of coordination again a little bit, but it's still just very unmolded, very raw. They ended up going 4-2, and they had a pretty difficult schedule. They played Snake and Invictus Gaming. I can't remember Oh, Chaogu, yeah. So they managed to win 4 of the 6 games, and they even 2-0'd Snake, which is really really good considering how high up I rate Snake this week. So looking pretty nice. I don't think they'll actually make playoffs, actually, just because I think that Master 3 are okay, and I don't know. It's hard to call. I'm not sure if Royal will make playoffs or not, but I think they deserve to. Is kind of where I'm going with this. Number 7, Invictus Gaming. They fell even more, which might be weird to some of you because they've had some good performances. I think the thing about Invictus Gaming is they're still very reliant on Zitai showing up, and he's improved in that respect. I think he's actually had some really crazy carry performances, but when he doesn't exert that early pressure the team relies on, they just try to scale out too much and they fall behind. And I think that RNG figured that out in game 2 and they took advantage of that. I think that against the stronger teams with better top liners, they won't be able to get away with that at all. So I don't think that they deserve to be high up, but at least now they have kind of a concept, or they have some things that work for them. Number 6 is OMG. I think I rated OMG 5th, so they haven't fallen that much. The reason why OMG is down here is let's just get this off my chest, is that again, Xiong, small champion pool, really inconsistent in that regard. Leveling, I think, just Leveling and Cool so reliant on each other. Leveling, I think, is pretty Gragas reliant right now. I think this will change when more aggressive junglers like Elise start showing up again. I think he could try to go back to Lee Sin, even though it burned him really hard last split, just because there's less of a gold suck. So he could kind of take more of that gold on his own and try to do the old duelist thing, especially if Cool continues to have better performances. Cool, I think, finally learned his ear. Unfortunately, also was back in meta, and he played it in the show match against IG at China Choi, which really unfortunate. Cool, very stubborn player. Both of them pretty inconsistent right now, but still I think it's a good core to build around. Again, I kind of would like to see how these players would do on different teams, just because I think they've been pretty dependent on each other for so long. And then, of course, the bottom line North, really, really good. Amazing they keep putting him in Alistar, which I don't like. I think they're trying to do it to deny it, but he's just not a good Alistar player. So there's just weird drafting, just weird things going on this team. When they can get something to work, they look really good, but it's almost as if there are a few things that can go wrong, but they tend to, you know. So that's where I see OMG. The one thing is that Going made a post that said I've scrimmed. You have to wait for me a little bit longer. It's the very vague hinting thing where OMG tries to like last minute roster change and make a run. They're fine. They're not close to a top 3 team. Vici Gaming. Now, I actually last 2 weeks ago hated them. It was really, really cool. But right after I made that video, they did change out their mid, they did change out their AD carry. And Peng, I just really am surprised that they didn't play him really all season, except for that one weekend they played him one game, right after carry was removed from the team, allegedly for health reasons. He's been really strong in team fighting, and Vici Gaming had a great comeback from behind, something like this that they haven't had, and I think Peng is a really interesting player to watch. Perhaps in the future, perhaps just right now, they could help Vici Gaming really, really make a bid. I think LGD right now, they face Invictus Gaming, Vici, and OMG, and they sort of said that they're really afraid of OMG. I'm actually, in their case, would be more afraid of Vici, just because I think Vici already had this idea of this rotation-based play, which I think now that they've switched out some of their carries is a little bit more confident again, and they can also make comebacks from behind now in team fights, which is something they really, really lacked under certain circumstances. And it wasn't some throwaway team, or maybe it was. I can't even remember who it was. Oh yeah, it was UP. It was Unlimited Potential. So it is kind of a throwaway team, but Unlimited Potential has pretty decent team fighting, especially hinging on Heart Sense of Engage. So I don't know, it was interesting to see. And they 2-0'd King, which historically has been really hard. The only team I think the entire season to not lose to them is IG, actually. So they are really, really hard to 2-0. We'll just put it that way. So I think VG Gaming looking really good. Suddenly going into this last week. Number 4, Gu. Okay, so I've been putting Gu up second, third. I think I maybe had them fourth a little while ago. Yeah, but they've always been consistently high up. I think Gu, I had a big defense of them last time. They're very, very dependent on their jungler not screwing up, but she's been doing much, much more lately. He had a really bad week. Just Swift, all sorts of questionable movements on Gragas, on Lee Sin, on Nidalee. So it's not just like these really squishy champions, right? But the thing about Chagu is that they have a bunch of things they can bring to the table. They have like the tank mid. People have been saying B has a limited champion pool, but I think there are at least 4 champions they can play and be really good on, which you don't really need more than that. And so it's not like a Baka situation where he literally plays like one champion really well. Then you have the Swift's questionable engage. The entire team kind of has to play around this do or die type jungler, which is their biggest problem. And then Doinby's just probably been the most solid player all split. TCT TNT really miss playing those laning phases though. I said before that I think TNT is probably the strongest AD carry in the league right now, but I think he's kind of had some issues with laning phase and his synergy with TCT lately. I'd like to see them work on that and make a better bid. I think that if they ever do match up against Snake, it's going to depend so much on whether or not they can get a lane swap. So, that's where I'm going with them, and that's why I'm placing them fourth for now, because I think just that one thing where they might have an advantage isn't enough to overcome Snake. Number 3 is Snake. Yes, they have looked really good these past couple weeks. Yu has been stepping up really crazy. Looked really amazing. He's now third in the standings for MVP points, so he's had a really good couple of weeks. Flandra also had a really good couple of weeks. His early laning has been less foolhardy. He's just been like really much more controlled and dominating, though he still does the crazy dives and the weird stuff that could go terribly wrong. But luckily, Ella, you, great safety net. I just really like the concept of those two built around him. And then Martin being more self-sufficient means that Ella can focus more resources onto the link for Flandra and on helping you out and sort of creating the safety net that Flandra needs to just kind of go ham. And ZZR has been showing a little bit more consistency in the early game, shoring up some of their weaknesses there in terms of early pressure. So in standard lanes, their standard lane play has it's so good. They can snowball like crazy off standard lanes. I think in the past couple weeks they've been lane swapped on 3 times, or they've been in lane swaps 3 times. They've had one good one against Vici, but I think Vici had like a bad draft. And they had a bad one against RNG and a bad one against LGD. LGD really, really strong at lane swaps, really good microplay. RNG though, like getting and they initiated this one, so it was weird. So I think their early game is improved, but there isn't a big enough sample size to say that their lane swap play is that much better. Especially since like really questionable. They must have expected the reverse swap, but even then it shouldn't have been as punishing for them to not have had the matchups that they needed. So that's my reservation about Snake. Otherwise, team fighting great. The synergy between the top 3, and by top 3 I mean the top side, like the jungle, top laner, and mid, really, really strong right now. Ella, solid as always, and solid peel support as always. Really good vision control, and Martin's probably the most inconsistent member on the team right now. Sometimes he will have a little bit of a hiccup. He had a bad Tristanic game. Sometimes he just like has these random misplays. I don't think he's as good mechanically as Crystal, but overall solid cleanup, very role player-ish, and that's all really they need based on the fact that they are playing a more top-heavy style. Number 2, LGD Gaming. So this might be surprising because they did split with King, but like I said, everyone splits with King, so it's not that shocking. They also played TBQ again. I've expressed how I'm not a fan of TBQ, but he was okay. I really would still like them to commit to Xiaoxi. I think rotating their tops is still fine. There's not really a reason for me to say, okay, bench Acorn, because I think Acorn has been showing. They got a new Taiwanese analyst. They've boosted their support stuff again. They're working on getting a coach. So they're in a much better position now. They don't have to bench Acorn. And I think that the jungle is just the linchpin, really. But they've played really fluidly against WE, just moving, rotationing, taking the rotations between lanes. Godby has been a monster. I said previously, he's never played Azir before. He played Azir twice against King, and even though they lost one game, he had a really great performance in both. And then, I don't know, this team is just really good in theory, if not for the fact that they have to play around this one weakness. They're similar to Xiaogu kind of in a regard, except that I think Xiaogu has a very high upside in terms of his early pathing and ganking scenario. And then finally, Edward Gaming, of course. Edward Gaming number 1, I think the thing that's improved for them is the core synergy between Mako and Clearlove has gotten better through this split, and so their strength in shoring up some of their jungle weaknesses and preventing invades, just as soon as someone invades that jungle, they're collapsed upon. They have such good, tight control of that kind of space. So the best benefit now is just ganking for an enemy team to take them down is just like ganking the lane, but Clearlove has a good sense of counter ganking. Their communication seems to be good. If you watch their individual streams, like Clearlove pings jungle camps. It's really strange, but I think that they're a very strong communication-based team right now. And the fact that all of the pieces work well together. I think reintegrating those pieces might take a little bit of time, but I just don't see anyone beating them at the moment. They have 3 sets left, so that will give us a better idea going into playoffs and regionals just how strong they are. So they have clinched first seed, so good for them. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoy week 11 and the playoffs. I will probably put out an article with more detail on where teams can go in the standings and what that means. But otherwise, see you around. I think they don't want to win anymore. It's almost like some of these players want to become an LSPL team so that their buyouts will lower. Almost, you kind of have to wonder about that sort of thing. Of course, there's also the thing that Royal Never Give Up is in 9, and because of some of the rumors and speculation that the Royal Club owns both of them, they'll be on the same side of the bracket in the promo. Whatever, this isn't about a conspiracy theory, this is just about Team King, and they suck, so they're number 12 overall. Despite having some really interesting individual performances from Insec and Zero and Nama and even Korn, they're just not a good team right now. WE very similarly, great individual performances from Spirit. They at least play like they want to win every game, even if they don't go about it the most logical way, so that's why they're above King. Otherwise, not a good team either. Number 10, I'm going to have Unlimited Potential. The reason why I have Unlimited Potential is number 10 now. They were actually, if you remember, I had them at 8 2 weeks ago. I have Unlimited Potential at number 10 right now just because I think there's sort of been a lot of changes. Once again, this is why I like doing them bi-weekly instead of just once a week because, well, first of all, there are a lot of games that happen every week, but so there is a lot of shifting per week, I think, but just a conglomerated over 2 weeks makes it very interesting. So, number 12, we have King, still, obviously, that hasn't changed, and number 11, WE. I think the one thing about King is that they have shown more sophisticated macro play again, but then they just kind of goof off, and they don't really care, and they've given up, and there's just still have all the great creative things about them, the very interesting ideas about counter strategy, the way they want to approach that. Heart's still very good commanding shot caller. The unfortunate thing is that no matter how much you like a team in concept or how good this team can be in concept, their execution is so off. And they're losing a lot of games, and the teams that I rated above them actually kind of had a bit of an upswing. Actually, there's kind of a debate between this and number 9, which one's worth. Unlimited Potential could actually be the 9th place team, really close for me. But I just think... Hi, this is Kelsey. You may have noticed that I've relocated once again. Very exciting new trailer-esque decor because I do indeed live in a trailer for the time being. This is probably going to be the last of these LPL Immersion videos since I'm doing them bi-weekly. If there's not really going to be much space between week 11 and the playoffs, So I'm not going to be doing another one probably. I might do one. I'll probably do one after playoffs before regionals though. So we'll leave it at that. But going in,